Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching your operational briefing for March 31st, 2026, the last day of the month, and one that closes March with several threads simultaneously approaching their breaking points. We open in the Middle East, where the clearest signal yet has emerged that Washington may be preparing to walk away, without achieving a single declared objective. The strait is still closed, Iran is still enriching, and the regime is still standing. We will lay out what that means and where the conflict goes from here. On the ground in Ukraine, the headline today is Costantinovka. The Megatex industrial zone is being consolidated from the inside. A Ukrainian special detachment sent to retake it did not come back, and the operational logic now points toward encirclement of the city center from 3 directions. We will explain why taking an industrial zone first, the hardest possible starting point, may turn out to be the smartest move of the entire urban campaign. In Lyman, the situation is described by multiple sources as critical. In Kupansk, 3 separate video sets from 3 different city districts in under 2 weeks make the claim of full Ukrainian control impossible to sustain. And on the Sumy direction, the northern grouping is claiming Korchakivka, unverified but consistent with the pattern of the past week. March ends, April begins. Several decisions are coming due simultaneously. Let us get into it. Before moving to the front line, a fundamental shift in the diplomatic context of the Middle Eastern conflict must be recorded. Information is arriving that the US president, in conversations with his inner circle, is signaling a willingness to end combat operations, even without the unblocking of the Strait of Hormuz. If this signal is accurate, it means the following. Before the American campaign began, the Strait of Hormuz was open to all without restriction and without any transit fees. It is now closed, with passage available only with Iranian permission and at a cost of approximately $2 million per vessel. Iran has not abandoned uranium enrichment, has not abandoned ballistic missile production, has not abandoned its drone programs. The regime has not changed. Not a single one of the campaign's declared objectives has been achieved. Moreover, Iran has gained an additional revenue stream from transit payments. Against this backdrop, oil markets on Monday, March 30th, opened as predicted. WTI reached $102, Brent $115. The increase amounted to approximately $5 to $6 from Friday's close. Trump issued Iran a new ultimatum, this time threatening strikes against power plants and water desalination facilities. The market reaction was muted. Confidence in American ultimatums has been declining with each successive iteration. Markets no longer respond to words, only to actions. In parallel, resistance to a ground operation is intensifying in the American political space. Democrats are openly warning of Republicans losing 60 to 70 seats in the House of Representatives if a ground campaign is launched with subsequent casualties. The stakes are too high to risk. The scenario in which the United States limits itself to aviation and missile strikes, then exits the active phase and transfers the burden of confronting Iran to regional allies, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Israel, while supplying American weapons, is becoming increasingly realistic. The operational situation. General context. Along the line of contact in Ukraine, the number of verified changes over the past 24 hours is limited. But a significant body of data requiring analysis has arrived. The fundamental operational backdrop remains unchanged. The mass application of FPV drones by both sides continues to define the tempo and scale of ground operations. On a number of sectors, the concentration of FPV operators is so high that personnel physically cannot reach forward positions. They are destroyed on the approach. This de facto freezes the front line on such sectors, regardless of either side's intentions. Data is arriving regarding a possible Ukrainian command strategic design. According to filtering reports, General Sursky is considering trading Donbass for Zaparisia, concentrating reserves in Donetsk Oblast as a demonstration of Donbass priority while preparing the main strike on the Zaparisia direction. If this design is real, it explains a number of observed contradictions. The reinforcement of the Ukrainian grouping in Donbass, alongside simultaneous buildup of activity in the Zaparisia sector. Costantinovka direction, the Megatex industrial zone. A strategic shift. The most significant event of the day is the confirmed expansion of Russian control in the industrial zone of Kostantinovka, specifically in the area of the zinc plant and the adjacent Megatex industrial zone. The tactics employed by Russian forces on this direction deserve separate attention. The classic urban assault scheme involves the sequential capture of residential districts, private housing sector, then multi-story buildings, and only then industrial zones, which by definition constitute fortified areas with developed shelter systems. Here, the opposite choice was made. The attack began with the most difficult objective. And, significantly, it is producing results. A week ago, Russian units achieved an initial foothold in the industrial zone. Today, the zone of control within it has been substantially expanded. This is no longer a position at the edge, barely holding a few buildings. It is a stable, consolidated presence deep inside the industrial district. The Ukrainian command reacted belatedly. Several days later, a special assault detachment was transferred into the industrial zone, with a specific task of restoring control over its southern part. The result was zero. The strategic significance of the Megatex industrial zone for the fate of Kostantinovka is difficult to overstate. The industrial district is located effectively in the center of the city, dividing it into two parts. Full control over it means the ability to simultaneously press on residential districts from three directions: from the industrial zone side, from the south, and from the Ilyanivka side once it is taken. With this front configuration, prolonged retention of the multi-story residential districts by Ukrainian forces becomes operationally impossible. According to available assessments, the capture of the industrial zone amounts to approximately 50% of the work required to take the city. It is precisely this zone that is the key to dividing and subsequently destroying or displacing the Ukrainian grouping. At the current tempo, Kostantinovka may pass under Russian control by early June 2026, consistent with forecasts made at the start of the year. The Ukrainian side acknowledges the critical situation and is transferring reserves into the central part of the city in an attempt to stabilize the front line. Whether this is succeeding remains unknown. Reports are also arriving today of Ukrainian attempts to enter Chasiv Yar. According to available data, all groups that attempted entry were destroyed by Russian FPV drones. Kupansk direction, the fog of war and documented presence. On the Kupansk direction, 3 separate video materials were received over the past 24 hours, each documenting Russian presence in different parts of the city. The first, Russian positions in the northern part of the city, residential buildings 2 kilometers from the established Russian control zone under Ukrainian drone fire. The second, assault operations in the private housing sector on the approaches to the railway station. The third, positions in the ruins of a multi-story building near the city hospital, fighting in the very center of the city. The combination of 3 independent footage sets from 3 different city districts over a week and a half, the Yuveleny district, Kupiansk Pivdeny station, the station area, the city center, forms an unambiguous picture. Claims of full Ukrainian control over Kupiansk do not correspond to reality. This is not a contested question, it is a documented fact. Kupiansk is a zone of active combat contact, where both sides are operating. Simultaneously, information has arrived of the destruction of a group of workers transferred to the city to install anti-drone netting. Significant casualties from a Russian artillery strike. This episode indirectly confirms active Russian fire reconnaissance within the city boundary. Regarding Korchakivka and Novosinov, claims of their capture remain unsupported by verified video materials. The situation remains in a state of informational uncertainty. Zaparisia direction, Stepnohirsk and the growing threat. On the Zaparisia direction, no cartographic changes over the past 24 hours, but operationally significant data has arrived requiring attention. According to information from sources close to units on this sector, the Ukrainian side has approximately doubled, its FPV operator count in the Stepnohirsk and Primorsky area. Simultaneously, reports are arriving of possible preparation for a helicopter assault landing in Stepnohirsk, on the model of the operation near Pokrovsk. As a reminder, the previous such attempt concluded with the destruction of the helicopters, and the subsequent elimination of the landed assault force. Nevertheless, the very fact of preparation for such an operation indicates that the Ukrainian side regards this sector as a priority for restoring control. Stated Ukrainian objectives in this sector: the return of Stepnohirsk, Kamyanska and Primorske. Intensified combat activity should be expected here in the near term. On the Orikhiv and Huliapol directions, no changes. FPV drone concentration on both sides is so high that a number of analysts are characterizing these sectors as expanded kill zones, terrain impassable for personnel from either direction. Advances will not occur until the fire balance shifts. Pokrovsk and Dobropilia directions. On the Pokrovsk direction, no confirmed changes. A single source reports the entry of Russian forces into Vasilivka and Novoalexandrivka, but a single unverified report does not constitute grounds for cartographic changes. Zone of control expansion north of Kotlino towards Serhivka continues. Assault operations in Belitsky also continue. According to available data, approximately half of the settlement is already under Russian control. Corresponding confirmation is expected. Sloviansk direction. Nikiforievka and Ry-Oleksandrivka. On the Sloviansk direction, a video material from Nikiforievka documents a Russian advance of 800 meters in the northern part of the settlement. Russian positions in residential buildings are being engaged by the Ukrainian side, which simultaneously confirms the advance and indicates attempts to stop it. Confirmed presence in Fedorivka Druha has also been recorded. Regarding Ry-Oleksandrivka, data continues arriving of Russian units reaching the outskirts from either the Nikiforievka or Kaliniki direction. No verified footage of consolidation inside the settlement has yet been received. Yesterday's flag episode in the western part of Ry-Oleksandrivka remains the only visual confirmation of entry, insufficient for cartographic control notation. Lyman direction. A critical situation. On the Lyman direction, no new cartographic changes, but the character of incoming data indicates a mounting crisis in the Ukrainian defense of the city. Russian forces are applying pressure simultaneously from the east and the south. The dense Ukrainian FPV drone application is not stabilizing the situation. Losses and position loss continue. The Ukrainian side is transferring reserves, but logistics are extremely difficult. Bridges and river crossings are being destroyed almost immediately after restoration. The operational analogy with Costantinovka is instructive. There, too, verified advance data was absent for an extended period, after which a single day brought confirmation of Russian forces in the city center. A similar scenario at Lyman is plausible. Information silence, then a sharp cartographic correction. The significance of Lyman to the overall operational scheme is unchanged. Its fall opens a flanking bypass of Sloviansk and threatens the single supply road to the city. Sumy direction, Mala Korchakivka. On the Sumy direction, significant information has arrived. The northern grouping has claimed the capture of Mala Korchakivka in Sumy Oblast. No confirming video materials had been received at the time of this briefing. Map corrections will be entered upon their receipt. The context on this direction is consistent. For several days, reports have been arriving of active Russian operations along the Andriivka, Alexiivka, Yunakivka line with assault attempts toward Novosich, Korchakivka and Krapovshchina. The Mala Korchakivka report fits logically into this picture. On the Khlukiv direction, 2 video materials from Sopich have been received, confirming Russian presence in the settlement and an advance of 500 meters from the demarcation line with consolidation in residential buildings. Sopich had previously passed under Russian control. Today's footage clarifies the position configuration. Movement toward Khlukiv continues. The final day of March forms a picture of 2 parallel processes. The first is operational. On several key sectors, Russian forces are methodically intensifying pressure. Kostantinovka is moving toward resolution through the industrial zone. Lyman is approaching a critical point. Kupansk is documented as a zone of active combat. On the Sumy and Sloviansk directions, small but consistent advances are being recorded. The second is strategic. The Ukrainian side appears to be preparing an unconventional maneuver. a demonstrative reinforcement in Donbass while preparing for a strike on the Zaparisia direction. If this design is executed, April could bring serious escalation precisely on the Zaparisia direction. March 2026 concludes as a month in which small unit tactics definitively established themselves as the primary instrument of ground combat for both participants in the conflict, and the FPV drone became de facto the primary determinant of operational tempo. In April, this trend will not disappear, but at several focal points it will be pushed to its logical limit. Briefing compiled as of March 31, 2026. A number of data points regarding Mala Korchakivka, Rai Oleksandrivka and Kovsharivka require verification as confirming materials continue to come in.